Going live. Do I? Can I turn on the mic? I don't even know. I guess so. All right. Yeah, we're doing this. We are live. Let me post in the Facebook chat for feedback. So we'll do that. So you guys should be good to go there. And then let me check the restream chat. There we go. So I got the restream chat open. There we go. Oh, snap. I guess I'm not logged in. Let me do this right now. Do I even remember my password? Do I know it? Is that the password? I hope it is. Nice. Okay, we're live. Cool. All right, let's get started here. So we're doing feedback. What's up, Ray? What's going on, guys? We're doing feedback today. So just for a little bit. So I posted in the chat right here. It's a little thing. So if you want to submit some files, that kind of stuff, then that's what we're going to be doing. So I'll check it in a second. We have here, I think, is Jaden wanted some feedback on something. So we're going to take a look at some of his work. And I will try to give some kind of feedback for him. So let's get right into it. So Jaden, you can message me wherever, and we'll go from there. So if all works well, I should be able to go into file requests, go to feedback, and there should be some stuff, and here it is. So it looks like we have something here. Jaden, if you want to talk about what is it that you're actually looking for, I'd be kind of curious to hear your thoughts on what's happening here. So it looks like we have some things, and it looks like you have a file too. It looks like you have a Blender file. No, you don't have a Blender file. Okay, never mind. All right, we're chilling. Cool. So here's your clown pass, and then here's your thing right here. Okay. It's very interesting. If it's not too lagged for you. All right, that's cool. So yeah, you can give me the file if you want. It's up to you. You don't have to, but I do have some thoughts that could possibly maybe explain why some things aren't working as good as they could have. And I think the biggest thing, I don't think we need this for now. Well, maybe we should use this, because there's less atmosphere. So maybe I can use this one instead. Why is this, what just happened here? What the hell? That was weird. Alright, I'll try that one more time. Let's open this up and let's drag it down. I just want to make a new, I want to double it down, yeah? I also make a new one. And do that and Control Y. There you go. So I just want to make it a little bit easier to understand without the thing happening here. Yeah. So I think compositionally, it works decently, because compositionally, if we're trying to break down the simple statement that we have going on right here, it pretty much looks like there is essentially light in this area, and then we have a kind of big shape kind of cutting across here, going down. So that's what seems to be what's kind of happening here. And so that's kind of a nice kind of a dark shape, and it also has some perspective as well, kind of going in the other direction. So I think this piece is interesting because we have a good amount of different perspectives going on here, or at least we're using kind of the XYZ coordinate system in a decent way, meaning that we're going in this direction right there, and so then we have that little piece, and then it obviously comes down. And then we have this piece kind of going in that direction, and then that kind of goes in, comes down. And then I guess what makes this piece work pretty decently is that it's kind of going through a plane, So there's negative space here. So I kind of like that idea right here, is that there's something behind it in terms of like the negative space. So like that's your simple statement in essentially, and then of course you have, you know, something going on back here, and you know, so forth and so on. So I think why this piece works in general is because if we're drawing this from kind of straight on, you have your big giant piece right here, which is, this is kind of your plane right here, and it has a negative space right there. So it has a negative space that then has something going through it. So then that means the camera is right. The camera seems to be kind of like right here. And it seems to be kind of getting this whole scene like in this area, which is kind of nice. So that seems to be kind of the camera angle here. It seems to be like a decent sized lens. It looks like it's around maybe like the 30 or 40, I would imagine. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Oh, made that red. Always keep making it white. Actually, we'll just do this. Turn the saturation down. Oh yeah, there we go. So it seems to be, I mean, maybe around like I'm not sure what the lens is. I'm guessing it's gonna be around 30 millimeters. If I can check the Blender file in a second. So it seems to be nice, because then your payoff is you have this thing right here, which is this little piece right there. And so then what's cool is that you can have it kind of be, you know, dark on this side and then kind of light on the other side. So that seems like that could possibly work. I think what's wrong is that the proportions are kind of all over the place, and it gets kind of weird to understand. So to kind of prove my point, if we look at this piece right here, the proportions of this guy are pretty thin. Like, it's almost like alright, see the proportion? Watch what happens when I take this over and I put it over here. You see how it's literally the same proportion in terms of thickness? It doesn't actually really change. It's like literally the same. I'll make it the same size. I'm making it a little bit smaller because it goes in perspective. Actually, I'll do this. So there we go. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drag it downward. It's literally the same size in perspective. And so I think what happens is that when we get from like here to there, then all of a sudden it's like super busy, and there isn't like a decent read that's happening there. Does that kind of make sense? Is this area gets super convoluted, and it's kind of hard to tell where something is sitting. The only way I know is because the bottom right there. But I think if you put that stuff then here, then you really can't see what's going on. And though this has a nice read to it, don't get me wrong, in terms of that stuff right here, but then over here, like, it's really hard to see without this little piece right here, like how far something is, and it looks very, I feel like these need to be a lot bigger so that we can clearly not get lost in this area. I think as soon as you get in this area, we get a little bit lost. So there's two ways you can solve this, in my opinion. The first one would just be to get rid of these. And if you got rid of those and then made something else, and give yourself a little bit of that space, I think that would then open it up so that we can kind of see the entrance there. You know what I'm saying? The third option, so that's option number one. Option number two would be then to just make these bigger. So if you made these bigger, like significantly bigger, then I think that might possibly help, because then you would automatically know that this like is not going to be that far back, just because of the fact that it's like, just because of the proportions. So that's the second thing you can do, is just make it bigger, right? So proportions, I think, is the best way to, is another way to go. The third thing you can do, I think, is height level. So I think with number three is height. And so what I mean by height is, like, whenever you have this issue, what you can do is you can just create a transition. So a transition to move it upward, and that would actually kind of solve that problem, because then you don't have to worry about it. So I would write the word height transition. So those are like my kind of go-tos, I would think, in terms of how to solve that problem. is we could either get rid of some things, so it's kind of painting in its attractive manner, so that way it creates more space. So we'll just write 1, I guess, to just open the space up. So we can open the space, we could change the proportions, or we could change the height level. Because right now, because it's the same height level, it's hard to kind of understand where its importance lies. Where I think usually the cool thing about having height changes is usually height changes are really good about creating a hierarchy. And hierarchies usually mean, and a hierarchy is like, if something's higher, it's usually more important, you know? Like if you go upstairs, like stairs, like think stairs going up somewhere usually means like it's like of a higher rank, or it's just more importance. And then stairs going like down somewhere usually means like it's probably like not a good place to go to. It's like the equivalent of going like to the penthouse and then going into the basement, if that makes sense. I don't know why I think of that, but that's kind of how I feel about like height levels when you think about raising something up. Especially if you look up at something, then it usually makes it seem like it's like a lot more kind of a god mode. Like you're looking at something that's like really big, versus looking down on it, you feel like you're the you're in the position of power. So we have to kind of figure out then is like, what does this mean to you in terms of this area right here? You know what I mean? So do we want us to kind of feel like, you know, scared and awe? Like what's the emotion that we're trying to elicit here in terms of this piece? Another thing too is a portion is that you have these two that are really, really small. Then you have this that's really, really big, and it stands out in terms of its bounding box, and then it's kind of like, well, then which one do I look at? So there's a lot of things that I think size is like the main issue that's happening here. And I think those are the reasons why it's not reading, is that your primary, secondary, tertiary details are kind of all over the place in terms of sizing. And so you want to kind of see if you can fix that, if at all possible. So like looking at like and I'm gonna go on my other piece here, my other computer screen, and I'm gonna kind of take a look at some other places on my screen, and I'm gonna look at some other just examples. So we'll look at like maybe something like Zabeel Palace, right? So I'm gonna grab an image of Zabeel Palace because I think it has a really cool like just overall hierarchy of space, and this is from Shutterstock. So I'm over here on my other screen right here, and we're gonna take a look at Zabeel Palace. I think this is a good example of like just overall. Let's see here. Let me just put entrance. Okay. Alright. Blender file uploaded. Okay. I guess we can just grab this one. This one should work just fine. Let's just move it up here. Alright, cool. Let's exit out. And we don't need all of this, so I just need like a little chunk of this. And the rest can just be deleted. So, something about the palace in terms of its kind of big, medium, and small shapes, I think it does a really good job at kind of like really breaking down little sections of having like kind of a primary read and then, you know, a secondary read, which would be that small shape, and then a tertiary read. And then obviously within that tertiary read, there would be some little smaller details, you know what I mean? And so no matter where you look on like architecture here, I think it does a really good job about that. Like every piece has kind of a design hierarchy in terms of it being like, again, I'll do it again right here. You have your primary shape, which is like this big giant piece right here, and then within that primary shape, you'll have your secondary shapes, which would be kind of like this piece right here, and then obviously this piece right there. And then within that, you'll have your tertiary shapes, or like tertiary detail, that's kind of like, you know, right there, smaller stuff. And then within that, it like falls again into the whole thing, right? Because if you were to go here and do the same thing, you're still gonna find that kind of primary, right? It's like design within designs, and I feel like it works really, really well. So then of course then your secondary shape as a whole would be like this big giant piece right here, this architecture. And so I feel like there's just not a lot of like design going on here. It feels very basic. In terms of like a design language, I feel like it could be a lot cooler. So there's a lot of things happening here, and I don't get that sense here in terms of like where is the primary, where is the secondary, where is the tertiary, how is it leading us? Does that kind of make sense? Or like this is kind of where this is where I feel like this issue right here could be kind of better used. Brendan, this is Apex. No, it is not, but it will be later. Does it say Apex on my Twitch? Let me check. That's actually kind of funny because I was playing Apex the other day. And let's see if it says Apex. Does it say I'm playing Apex? Is it not Apex? Why does it have that? Why does it have Apex? That's hilarious. Not Apex. I'll have to change that shit. Sorry. So no, this is literally the opposite as it can be of Apex. It is a art stream where I am talking about art in general. So I'll have to. How the hell do I fix that? It says right here that it's Apex Legends, and I have no idea how to fix it. Maybe if I log in. So sorry. Yeah. So mine's an actual. I'm a concept artist. So I work in the industry, and so we're doing feedback today. So I use my I use my channel for art feedback. So we're looking at someone's art, giving them feedback, and then I also do it to game on here. So that's probably the reason why. So so this palace is called Zabil Palace. It's in Dubai, I believe. So this palace is there we go. So yeah, I have no idea how to fix the stream. That's so funny. I'll have to look into that. That's so funny that says Apex. It should at least say Street Fighter, for God's sakes. It's in Dubai. So yeah, so we have all these things. So these are the issues that I think that are happening with the piece and why it's not reading correctly to its best ability. So I think the idea is there in terms of having that light kind of come through, having that thing be in the back, but there's a lot of questions we gotta, there's a lot of things you have to kind of figure out, and so I really think we need to kind of figure out the busy and rest areas. Like you kind of have these rest areas right here, but then where it's busy, it's like busy right here, and I'm not sure why. And then we have these big giant little pieces right here, and so then that kind of doesn't work well at all either. And so there's a lot of issues, and this is why like 3D like isn't like the end all be all. You know what I mean? Because I'm echoing my stream. Let me turn that off. That's probably because. It's interesting. Yeah, it's not the end all be all, because if you don't know what you're doing, you don't plan enough, it's still like, because I know you could do this in 2D, but it's clearly showing that you're not planning enough, and because you're not planning enough and you're kind of winging it, it's like showing up here, because like it will get you far in the first like maybe 10 to like 20 minutes to an hour, but I think when you get to that final part, which is like the actual design part, it's gonna fall short and you're gonna like not have a good time. So Daniel said, I think if you go to your Twitch dashboard and change the title. So my Twitch dashboard. Let's see if I can do that. I'm ready to roll. Twitch dashboard, back to Twitch. How do I go back? All right, channel. All right, sorry. Creator dashboard. Is that what it is? Manage stream. Okay, cool. Yeah, here we go. How do I change that? I have no clue how to change this, and I apologize. Chat settings, edit stream info. Here we go. Category. Here we go. There we go. Fixed it. Art. So I guess I gotta do that every time. So yeah, there we go. Back to it. If you're looking for me to die in Apex and play ranked and die in top 5, that could be later. but not right now. Actually, I was just playing, and we got like top 3 every time in the rank, but as our last person, so I was just like, literally just camping for like an hour. It was lame. So let's go into your Blender file, and let's see where we can change some things and go from there. So if I drag this over, yeah, so it's a nice piece. I just think that overall, let's go to material. Is the material here? Oh damn, that's nice. I'm just wondering if dang, that's the material. Is there a oh, there's a fog, huh? I mean, it looks nice. Like, the image does look nice in general. It looks cool, but I think this needs more space. Like, this whole thing right here just needs to be lifted up a lot more. I think that's kind of the issue here. So let me see. Select box. There we go. Why can't I move this? That's the light. All right, let me change my view and top. Oh, what the hell? Oh, is that the fog? Okay, I'm deleting that. All right. Why is everything locked? I can't select anything. That's really weird. Or I can, but I don't see... Oh. We just don't have the selection showing up. All right, so move... all right, well, let's just show that. So I feel like this needs to be kind of like moved up a little bit so we can see everything. So like, I think that's where, I think it's your composition too. So like, this could have been a lot cooler, but I think the shot that you have, and so to kind of show this, let's go to, I guess image editor. There we go. So what we'll do is we'll actually drop this image in here so we can kind of see where we're at. So right there, I think you're not like highlighting it. So the thing for me is like, what's like the most important thing here? I'm not kind of like seeing it in general. What is this? There's all these lines right here. I don't know what it is. All right, I'm probably gonna, oh, there's a lot of lights, dude. Wow, there's so many lights. Dude, I'm deleting all these, sorry, dude. That's crazy. What about now? Material. There's still crazy lights. Yeah, a little bit. All right, then I'm also gonna turn my near clip plane on a little bit, just so we can do that. So what is those? What are those lines? What are those? Okay, doesn't really matter. There you go. Cool. So I like the piece. I like all this stuff. I think these little transitional pieces right here could be a little bit stronger, because like you have all this detail right here, but then like we're not getting the most out of it. So I just feel like if you just kind of lift the thing up a bit, I think it would get like, you would get less, you'll get a better perspective here. So I think like an angle like this was probably better, just because it's a little bit easier to understand. And then a part of me wonders too, like maybe you should push all this stuff back. Like what if you took all this stuff and just kind of pushed it back a little bit? Especially like this thing right here. Like, can you push this back? Yeah. So I think by kind of pushing it back too, it just gives it more space to kind of operate, you know what I mean? So that's kind of, I think that's the reason why, like, and plus with the lighting, I think it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take all this, I'm gonna copy it, and then hopefully there's nothing. I'm gonna bring it into a new scene, actually. I don't need the light, I don't need the grease pencil. Okay. You have a bunch of area lights. Okay, delete all this. The camera, don't need the camera. So Brandon's offering, how often do you use 3D start paintings? All the time. It's a really great way to kind of move a little bit faster in terms of just being a little more efficient, because you can kind of work things out in terms of composition. So let me just bring this into a new scene here. So I'm not sure. So I use heavy poly, so that could be why things are not reading right. There you go. Much easier to kind of see. I still don't know what the hell that is. That's so weird. But yeah, so I think right now, like, it's cool, but I think we probably need to make everything a little more scaled upward, because like this is like, or scaled downward, like this is really, really huge. And so that's where it doesn't make any sense that like, why would this be that big? You know what I mean? And so that's where things get a little bit like kind of confusing for me, is that this thing you kind of have it right here, like this same shape, but the person is that small. Then all of a sudden you scale it up super big, and then it doesn't kind of make any sense. And so that's where I think it gets really confusing, because it's super, super huge. So I think a couple things need to change. One is I think the angle can change. Like I probably would put it like a little bit more like directly on the frame if you really want to do it that way. Like, so you can do that if you want to kind of show off how big something is. Versus here, like I think when you did it right here, everything was too close. So I think you want that space between here and there, so that way you can have light kind of showing through. So that means that if you want to kind of do that thing where let's just say this is let's just make it like a sun. Let's just do it this way. Light. Okay. Right here makes one. Cool. So that way you can have it like super super bright on one side and super dark on the other. So let's just say this is like the sun, or even there you go. Rotation. Oh, okay, cool. There we go. Make the strength pretty high, the background. So that way what I would do is I would make like another cube, and I would just make it like really big. And we'll just kind of go in this direction. And so what would happen is, if the light is coming from one direction, it would actually kind of light up. It would be dark on this side and light on the other side. So if I go here and I make it a sunlight, and let's just kind of move it over here. You see what happens is now you have like a little bit of darkness in here, but all of a sudden it's like super light on this side. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna turn off the soft shadows actually. Oh, they are off. The shadows are kind of weird. Then I think usually you can just turn on the shadows here and just make that, like, I always make it like 40. I'll make it like super high, so that way I just don't have to worry about it. And the shadows be a little bit more crispy. So I think stuff like that is probably what you want to do, but I'm still not sold on these. Like, a part of me is like, why don't we just hide these? So hopefully you're using collections. I'm not sure if you are. So I'm gonna make this all. I'm gonna make this all a collection. So make it a collection, and it's a little bit easier to deal with. And then all you have to do is just model one, and then just make an instance of it. So we will. Cool. New collection. Let's call this colors. Okay. So if I go down here now, we'll just turn that on. Cool. So something to be said right here is really, really nice. So I think what needs to happen here is this more consistency. You know what I mean? So like, if you're gonna use this, keep that same like proportion, I think. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, we like took this guy, and I'm gonna try my best to like not mess this up, because you have this nice thing going on here, clearly. Oh, what am I doing? You know what? Let me use the circle draw. Select lasso. Whoops. There you go. Select lasso for the win. Alright, that looks good enough. And let's go to wireframe so we don't select anything else. Cool. What do you think? Let's look at it again in the solid. Well, looks good to me. Alright, that's as good as it's gonna get. Alright, so we'll duplicate that. We'll move it in the Y. And then we'll just hit P to parent it. And then we'll just rotate it. think so. So I think if you then did it like that, I feel like then that makes a little bit more sense in terms of like it's the same. But I think here comes the problem though, is that it looks like miniatures, right? Like the scale is too great. So then I feel like you need to have like that smaller, that kind of smaller tertiary detail that we see in the Zabeel Hotel, right? A lot of stuff is like eye level, but I think with yours you don't have much eye level detail, or at least like that's like the eye height, but your stuff goes like super high. And so I'm wondering if like the proportions is what's kind of messing with it. Like I feel like if you just made these guys bigger too, I mean that's what it is. If you made this guy bigger in comparison, like that feels a little bit more natural to me in terms of like the proper height, you know what I mean? Of course you have to kind of make these guys bigger, of course, too. Like maybe like a little bit bigger there. But I think it's a proportional thing for me, where like if this guy was this small, maybe like that big, like that seems a little more believable. I think the guys are like too small, which means this guy just has to go a little bit bigger, like, you know, in order for that to kind of be believable. And then of course this can probably go a little bit up. Like I would probably want to see at least a little bit of sky, because the sky would essentially kind of silhouette it a little bit, and I think that would be kind of a cool idea. So that's kind of like my 2 cents on like where this thing could go, right? Because now you get that kind of shit, and I think that's actually pretty sick, because then if you were to take the same guy and let's put him in the Y direction here, let's move him in the Y direction, now you're getting some like cool shadows. So I think the scale is probably the easiest thing you can fix. Or you can just push it up higher. So I think if you were to push this up higher a little bit, push it back, then maybe if you were to, you know, take something like a cube or whatever, and I'll do my best here. This isn't going to be amazing by any means, but let me go back to solid here. And let's just go to the verts, and we'll just look at it from the side. Oh, I'm still on the lasso tool. That's my bad. And we'll bring that up. And we'll just make that over. That work? Oh, why didn't it select everything? That's so weird. Oh, I wasn't in wireframe. That's probably why. But no. Okay. So you see now, like if it has a little bit of a height thing, like now you can kind of see like where something might be a little bit different in terms of the transition. But the only thing you're giving up though is you're giving up that silhouette a little bit, because now you can't see all the other stuff. So now it might be worth it to go even higher with it, and then like let's just say that this model is kind of jank. What do you do with this model? It's like not the best model. There's a lot of stuff happening here. Anyways, we'll just bring that down. See the difference now? It's like now I feel like there's a lot more kind of height to it. So I think like an angle like this would be a little bit better. And then now you get to kind of consider like your camera angle. Can you save the blender file so I can go off of it? Yeah, man, sure. But like I kind of fucked it up, but I apologize. Anyways. So you gotta think about that in terms of your lighting and stuff like that. But I think also what I would be thinking about too is your how's it, focused? What the hell am I? What do you call it? I'm an idiot. Your focal length. Sorry, I'm having a freaking brain fart right now. Your focal length has to kind of change too. Because right now the focal length is like 50. Well, I think in yours it was actually smaller. So that's actually my fault. I take that back. So yeah, I think like a 30mm lens is like pretty good. I think 60 is kind of what the human eye normally sees, like 60 to 50. I forget. Don't quote me on that. But 30s are pretty good for like dramatic shots, and you can kind of get like a nice little 2-parter in there. So yeah, so like you could probably have it here, you know, because here you have this nice kind of space and it's kind of empty a little bit, and then you have a nice silhouette there. So I mean, just remember that I think people kind of forget, because Blender is so popular right now, and like I'm totally guilty of it too, in terms of Blender being like super easy to kind of work off of. Remember, it doesn't make you better, it makes you faster, you know what I mean? So if you can't kind of find these shots already like in your head, it's not gonna make you better, it's just gonna make you faster, you know? And so I always tell like my students that like it's only going to enhance what's already there. So if you do kind of like rushed paintings that like aren't that great and have a little bit of time, the 3D is only going to get you to that like mediocre painting in like maybe a few hours, instead of like taking you 10 hours. Like now you can do kind of a mediocre painting a little bit quicker. And so that's where you have to be a little bit like cautious about how you kind of approach these things. So, by the way, I think I could probably just duplicate that, but that's okay. I mean, it is what it is. Why am I not in the camera view? This is so dumb. Hold on a second. Did I delete? I deleted the camera, huh? I did. Alright. Yeah, so like right there, I think I had it zoomed out, right? I think, yeah, it's like right here or something. So like that's kind of cool. I'm wondering like if this needs to actually be there. Like I'm wondering if I even need any of this, and I probably don't. I probably didn't need any of that stuff. I could probably have some smaller stuff right there and I would be cool with it. So that's where like I would take my time a little bit here and just realize that, yeah, it's not gonna solve all your problems. So I can probably move this down a little bit. Ooh, there we go. It's actually really hard to get this where I want it to be. Oh, actually, you know what? What I have to do is rotate it on the Z-axis. No. I want you to rotate it. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So let's just say it's something like that. And maybe what we do now is we like take that camera and we maybe like increase the... Wait, I keep getting out of the camera and it's kind of annoying. Okay, so this camera has to change. Let's just go to like view, different view here. I didn't lock my camera, so I'm kind of stupid right now. I apologize. Viewpoints. Here you go, top. Okay, cool. Okay, now we're good. Wow, I was like upside down. That was weird. Okay. Alright, so let's just say we're like here, we're a little bit zoomed in. We'll get rid of this guy for now. I think it has a good silhouette. And we'll bring him down just a little bit more. It's nice. Cool. So we'll kind of rotate that camera just a little bit, just so we kind of have it. It could be a little bit centered, I think. I don't think that's like the worst thing in the world. So, okay, so now we can go here and let's see if we can, come on. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag here. And, okay, cool. I'm like, how do I get a little bit of that in there? There we go. Oh. So now we get that kind of stuff. So that's what you probably want to start thinking about, is like how to frame things a little bit better. And I think that's kind of what's like kind of stopping you from what you had before. So let's just screen cap this just for the sake of argument here. Let's just bring that in. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. Let's just screen cap it. I don't feel like rendering right now, so. So I think in terms of like just kind of a black and white situation, I just feel like that has like a stronger read than what you had here. So if I were to take what you had, your view, and I mean it had some cool lighting and stuff, you know, but I think let's just open this up again. I'm gonna save this as a feedback. I'm gonna save it as a JPEG. Alright, just feedback. Okay. Okay, we're there. And let's open it up again, your black and white image. Oh, why didn't it... Why fuck that up? Alright, never mind. I saved it as a different thing. Why is it not? Oh, you know why? Because that is the one. I'm tripping, dude. Okay. Hold on a second, dude. Here we go. Okay, so like if I were there, and let's open it like one more time. So I'll save the Blender file out, just so I can give you your kind of fair shake, you know. So I'll save this out. Save as Galen feedback. So I really want to see like how is it really reading in terms of just like a black and white render, you know. So we'll close this Blender file out and we'll open it up again. And if I can just get it to just be like nothing crazy, then that would be a good place to be. So I want to see it without any of these lights for starters. So no lights. And so, by the way, I think he had maybe like a little bit too many lights. That's a very kind of common thing you'll see amongst like lighting is like, because you can put so many lights in there, you start to kind of like go crazy. I feel like really good artists, especially if you ever like hang out with like lighting artists, they can do a lot with like a little, you know what I mean? Like they don't need a lot of information in order to make something look good. And that's always like really impressive to me. Just in general, how they kind of make stuff like work. Where's the fog? View. You know what? Let's just like I like the fog. Don't get me wrong. It's just like a little bit too much. Where's the fog? Is it this one? Yeah, your volume scatter. I mean, it's cool. Like, I like it. Just not today. Alright, let's take a look at now, like, basic rendering. So, let's just see if we kind of, like, we'll kind of keep your same angle, which I think is kind of, okay, so it's right around the same. So yeah, I think here it's not bad, but that's where I think there's a lot of things that could be working a little bit better here. So let's put in a light. Let's put in a sunlight. Is there still fog? Or no? Is it your density? Okay, yeah, there you go. That's what it was. So we'll change the 3D view here. To another view. Bam. Cool. There we go. So like if that's your view, I mean it's not bad per se. But I just feel like we don't get that epicness because there's so much like I thought actually it was just like this part right here. And I think that's what was kind of confusing to me is like we weren't getting the most out of it. Out of the situation. And I think that's where we kind of fall short here in terms of the piece, you know what I mean? Like, why is that not reading? What the? Oh, print screen, dude. Print that shit. Come on now. Okay, here we go. Okay, so. I mean, granted, we didn't get the lighting in there, but we could just do this, right? If you want to really make sure that kind of reads. Right? Like one, it's like that arch is like super small. And I think that's like the issue here. Like that arch is super small, we don't get anything out of it. Versus here, I mean, granted it's not like amazing, but I feel like if I were to do this and just kind of make it, it's still like really readable in my opinion. Like you can understand exactly what's going on. It kind of looks like a face a little bit, but there's still a lot of cool things happening here in terms of the rendering and the lighting that I feel like has a very interesting story to tell. And if you put a lot more people here, versus here, it's like I see a person and it's nice in terms of the scale, but I think you would probably need more smaller elements in order for that to read. So I think that's kind of what you would need. So you could actually keep the scale as is if you wanted to. I just think that then you just have to make sure that if you're gonna have something that big, it kind of needs to be seen. Like you might want to put this behind it, like behind these things, and that might make it a little better. So I think the biggest thing for you is just scale. And I think you could be a little bit more clever with the lighting. Like it's very easy to kind of like just go in and say, hey, I'm just gonna like put it in a big giant fucking fog cube and just let it look cool. And it's kind of cheesy, like that. Like that's becoming like the new color dodge a little bit. And so just be careful about that. And you really should try to like think about the design like as you're doing it. I think there can be more done there. So like, not that mine's like amazing, because mine's not. Like I'm working on mine and I'm still like kind of constantly fighting with it in terms of like where the hell is my shit? I don't even know. Dude, I'm an idiot. Wait, where is it? You know what? I'll just look at it on the desktop. So like even here, like when I'm looking at this, I'm really trying to kind of like figure out a certain level of scale that seems believable. And I think that's like a really hard thing to do. So like I'm constantly trying to make sure that if I have some big things here, that there are smaller things to kind of show for it, to kind of make sure that it seems believable. I'm thinking about the trim, the color combinations. There's a lot of things here that I'm thinking about, and I haven't even got to like the back area yet. And so like as I'm kind of modeling it, like I'll do it on the side, of course, like right here, and I'll kind of really check out and just see how things are kind of reading. And then I'm always thinking about scale. Even when I do scale some stuff up, like I am always trying to think about like, does it seem readable? And it seems like, and this is where 3D can get like really like kind of crazy, is when you're doing 3D, it's really easy to kind of just start like taking everything and just start scaling it up and just moving it left to right and like doing all those things. It's very, very easy for it to kind of get out of control. Like very, very easy. I think like I have that kind of problem sometimes when I'm doing stuff because like 3D is so powerful. It's very easy to take to take that power for granted, because you're just like you're kind of moving and scaling and rotating stuff without really thinking about it, versus like in 2D, because there's so much labor in it that you kind of think about it a little bit more. 3D can be unforgiving in that way, in terms of like next thing you know, like you have like this kind of like jumbled like mess of scale, and that takes a while to kind of practice. So you really got to make sure that you have some kind of like sketch. So like I'll constantly kind of like screenshot some things in it. So I'll constantly like do little tests and kind of figure some stuff out. So I think here, I think I actually have it somewhere. I'll have to open it on my other screen. Give me 1 second. Let's see. U files. Maybe not. I thought I saved it. But yeah, I'll constantly do tests, and like I'll constantly kind of do some tests and like draw over stuff, just so I can kind of see how it feels. So I don't really rush the process. I definitely take my time with this. So that's really, really important when moving forward, that it doesn't make you too lazy. Like it's not going to solve all your problems. So again, my theory with 3D is that I always kind of stick by it, is that it makes you faster, not better. So if you're doing like okay stuff or like okay designs, like it's only going to be exacerbated by your 3D, and all it's going to do is get you to that kind of shitty design faster. So you just got to be really, really careful with it. So that's it. That's probably my feedback for you, as I think you got to take a little bit more time with that composition in order to make that like read a bit better. So I'll link you the Dropbox link after, because you can't download from it, you can only upload to it. So people can't take your shit. Because that wouldn't be good, right? If I post that link publicly and someone takes your files, that's not good. That's not a good thing. So you'll have to wait real quick, and I'll give you a link. Did you have any more questions about that? And sorry for my Apex people that wanted to watch me play Apex. No, I might get that afterwards, honestly. Do you have any more questions? I've got until June to finish it. Yeah, it's plenty of time to get some more reference in terms of the overall design. And again, what I like to do is I really like to kind of break things down like on the side first, and I really try to just break down like big, medium, small, and then I kind of just like make them like I what do you call this? It's like a shatter. I shatter it. Cell fracture. I like to cell fracture it, so then that way when I want to do like some Uncharted shit, right? Why is this not zooming into it? Because I'm not selected, that's why. So that way when I want to do some Uncharted shit, I have like chunks of it, which I think is like kind of cool. So, but again, I usually do that and then I model it out. Another thing you can do too is I would make it into a different scene. So right here is your scene. So what you can do is you can make everything like on the side first, like all lined up, and then you just make a new scene, and then you can actually take those things from your old scene over here, and then move it in there if that makes sense. So then that way you're working from your collections, like you're working off the instances, and then it's a little bit easier to kind of deal with. You know what I mean? So that's one way of like doing it, is you can take all this stuff, right, copy it, and then go into your new scene. And your scene would be like the render scene, you know? So then you click right here and you go to your new scene and you just paste it right there. And then now it's a little bit easier to kind of work with, and there's more organization. So you want to think about it like layers too, yeah? Yeah, so that's where you got to get a little more creative. And so you'll see it in the file, by the way. All I did there in order to get that light to kind of cut across, is I just put a very fucking big like box there. So the light, the light's going this way. There it is. So if the light's going that way, that just means that it's gonna hit this thing right here. And I mean, I could rotate it too, right? I could do it this way or whatever, and then it would, you know, if I were to render this guy out, just give it a second. You know, I could obviously like rotate it any way I want, but that's all that's really happening, yeah? So it's very, very, right? So I can do it like that, and that's cool. Damn, that thing has some fucking color dodge right now. That is crazy. So you can find ways to be like pretty clever. Another thing you can do is like, I'll just take a bunch of spheres, and then kind of just make them into clouds. So I'll make like a sphere, a UV sphere, and I'll make it like big. I'll just kind of crush it down and make it kind of like wide or something. And then hopefully if I put it in the right area, it would like create a cloud, I think. Did that work? I don't know. Yeah, see? So you can kind of see it kind of creating clouds a little bit as well. So you can kind of like put these all over the place, and then you now have a bunch of clouds that are gonna like possibly create little shadow areas. Of course, you would have to kind of do it, you know, I would do it here, right? And then just kind of work these around and just see like where something like hits. And then there you go. See? So it's all about cheating, right? That's the point of the 3D, is like you can get a little bit better with lighting. So those that is my feedback to you, my dear friend, and hopefully that gives you something to go with. But just remember that when you start doing it in 3D, like the expectations get a little bit higher. You know what I mean? Because then it's like your composition needs to be super dope. The lighting and the rendering needs to be super dope. So like if you do that, then all of a sudden like you're creating this expectation for me that it's like this needs to be like super dope, like super awesome, because like you built it all in 3D. So then like you have so much more control versus 2D. So once you kind of go that route, like it needs to kind of blow my mind with like the overall level of detail and like your composition. So just take that into consideration. Cool. All right, cool. Cheating at its best. And when in doubt, look at Ricardo in the Facebook chat. Like he has like all the blender like cheats, you know. I call him the blender genie. Whenever I have like issues, I just like rub his belly digitally, and then he comes out and he gives me blender wishes and he tells me how to fix my things in Blender. So if you ever check out like his work, you should check it out. Like he's right there. Hi Ricardo, he's the shit. I'm about to make you gush a little bit. I apologize. Anyway, check out Ricardo's art station. I think he has some tutorials out, stuff like that too. If you ever need to have Blender questions, like or Blender stuff, that guy's the man, dude. He is awesome, and I love him. Anyways, yeah, that's about it. So I apologize. I haven't been doing every Tuesday like I'm supposed to because we're in a pandemic, and I'm kind of like I get bored and I don't feel like doing it. But I will try to, like, if people have like actual work they want to take a look at, like I will try to do that. But sometimes I just get lazy, man. Like I'm already working. I'm still working. I'm lucky. I'm very privileged to still have like a full-time job and still work. But with that, just doing it all at home and as well as like teaching can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes because it's just like I'm just kind of locked up in my house and I don't have my creative outlet sometimes. So I will try to do this more. It's just sometimes I just get a little bit like I'm in my office all day already. Last thing I want to do is then stream and then like talk to people. So but I appreciate you kind of forcing me to get online today because I was this close to being like, man, I hope he doesn't reply, so that way I can just like lay on my couch and watch like Law and Order. So I'm glad you kind of kept me to it, so I appreciate it. So yeah, if you guys are like this, please share it or whatever. I usually do it on Tuesday nights around 8 p.m. And this is where I kind of take a lot of people's work and I just kind of give my 2 cents. Again, this is don't take it with a grain of salt. It's just my opinion. It's not set in stone unless it's Ricardo's opinion. Rather than that, like you know, feel free to come and hang out. You know, if you need something to kind of take your mind off of stuff for the day. Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm officially out of here. I want to try to do some Apex, and I may not stream it because it's ranked. I don't want to be trash. Or if it's pubs, I'll stream it. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Jaden. I hope you are safe wherever you're at. Thank you, Darnell, for people coming through. Thank you, Brandon. Some people in the Twitch, people in the Facebook. Thank you all for coming out. I hope you are safe. Please stay inside. I know it's hard out here financially for a lot of people, but you know, hang in there. It is for your safety. My wife tells me all the time, she's a scientist, to wash your hands and all that kind of stuff. So please be safe. Be there for one another. Yeah, don't try to rush going back. You know, your safety is important here. So I want to be able to see you guys when it's all said and done. So cool. I will talk to you later, and Jaden, after this, I will give you a link to get your files, and we'll go from there. All right? Okay, guys. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next week, possibly, hopefully. Okay? All right, guys. Take care, and as always, peace out, guys. Thanks.